Welcome to the midway point. Welcome to the midway point of Blue Lock, right? Episode 12. We're halfway through the season. Huzzah! And first selection's over. Managed to beat Team V barely. The second selection, though, seems to be gathering all these 125 hopefuls together and having them go in individually in a dark cave like The Empire Strikes Back. They're going in like Luke Skywalker to face probably the nega versions of themselves to see if they're fitted to become a striker. And then we'll see who comes out on the other side. No, I think that there is going to be some kind of team element, but what I predict is going to happen is that they all go in by themselves. We've got what? We have 2 different teams of 11 people and the 3 remaining people that were the top strikers from the teams that lost. So in that sense, we basically could have you could be working with 5 other, I don't know if it's going to be, they're going to split them up just and do individual trials. Ego has this big complicated formula where there's 5 different stages. So maybe stage 1 is that you are by yourself. And are you going to be able to face yourself and your goals and move on to get to the next stage? I feel at some point, though, they're going to be working with other team members from other teams together and testing their chemistry and their coordination and their camaraderie and the ability. Can you still be Japan's next top striker while working with a cohesive team unit? Because at the end of the day, yeah, there are being their own strikers and scoring points for the team, but as we've seen demonstrated by Team Z, you can't just have a bunch of individuals that are good. You have to be able to coordinate some kind of attack strategy regardless, and it has to be able to follow through. So I'm very curious to see what this second selection holds out. The big question, we have 12 episodes left. Is the rest of the season going to deal with just one stage of the 5 in the second selection? Is it going to get through the entire second selection? Are we going to get through half the second selection? I don't know. Are we going to do an episode per second selection? Trial to clear? I don't think so. I think it's going to be either we're only going to get through stage 1 of the second selection in these remaining 12 episodes, or I think we're going to get through the second selection by the end. But I don't know how long this manga is going to be. I don't want to know, especially because I know we're getting a season 2 of Blue Lock. So it's going to be curious to see where we end up at. That's going to be a lot of fun. But I don't have any comments yet. I'm recording this before Wim, my moderator for Blue Lock, gets me the results of the last episode. But I couldn't wait. I wanted to go ahead and watch it. And I know I'm not wearing a jersey, but it's kind of chilly today, and my heat's kind of turned down low. So we'll see, right? But before I get into the episode and otherwise, I do want to give a special shout out over to Patreon, to the fellow patrons who have been super supportive and kind this month and offered support. I really, really appreciate it. So special shout out to these individuals, to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Anna, to Ash Got Snow Bitches, to Be Happy, as well as Dana, Destiny Marie, Eric, Edgar, Kiri, as well as Matthew Palfinier, Nameless Monster, Sunspots, Shimoyama, Trails, Translucent Men, Tyrone, Zachiel, Linden, Jimmy Lujan, Aku Q, as well as Lexi McDaniel. Thank you all so very much for all of your support. I really appreciate it. All of my love. Now, with that being said, before we get started, I'm not going to forget this week. Before we get started on this episode, that's going to be at our halfway point here as we dive into the next part, I feel it's appropriate that we definitely give a shout out to another sports anime that deserves some attention. Have a look.
Do you gaze longingly out into the distance, wondering what you're going to be reacting to and watching after Blue Lock is finished? Well, worry no longer, because there's hope. There's Ace of the Diamond. Yes, you too can watch this series with its colorful cast of characters, various teams, many rivals, and lots of rivalries to keep you satisfied when you're done watching the 3-on-3 matches in Blue Lock. So, if you're curious, go out and give Ace of a Diamond a try today and find out just how exciting it can be. Now, back to the reaction.
Didn't see that coming, did you? I'm gonna have to start getting creative if I'm not wearing a jersey, right? Gotta do that. So maybe for this holiday season, we'll have some special Ace of the Diamond ads to play during the Blue Lock reactions. But we'll see, right? We'll see. So in any case, I'm not gonna waste any more time. We've wasted 5 minutes. We're gonna dive in and see what all we get. So we are gonna start episode 12 of Blue Lock. We're gonna do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. This is a lot of math. I really liked this episode a lot. This is a great midway point in the season because I'm glad. So we have 5 stages, right? We're gonna put them up here. I've been trying to do the math, and it feels like a problem that I cannot solve at the moment because I don't know all the parameters, right? We know that the second selection, right? Let's put it up here. We know that the second selection has 5 stages, and stage 1 we got through. Stage 1 was doing 100 goals in 90 minutes. That is a lot. Not impossible, as we found out, but that is a lot, right? That is quite a bit. And so it reminded me of my psychology class that I took in college where all of the tests were 90 minutes, but they had 100 questions each. So you had like a minute 30 to go get an answer to a question. It was not a lot of time at all. It seems doable, but it is not a lot of time. So that is stage 1. And then stage 2 seems like it would be the easiest, right? But it is surprisingly important how you select, right? Stage 2 is pick a team of 3. Stage 2 is to pick a team of 3. We're going to talk about that. That seems like an easy task, but it is not because of stage 3. Stage 3 is to do the 3-on-3 matches. Right? Okay. We're going to talk about that. And then we have stage 4 and stage 5. Stage 4 we'll put here, and then stage 5 and then we get to the third selection. So yeah, these stages are all Ego. What else has Ego been doing? Ego has put so much time and effort into this Blue Lock program. He has got Sherlock levels of genius putting this all together. It's kind of insane, like how much time he's devoted to putting this all together. And I get a feeling that a lot of Ego's planning and his technology and everything are all deriving from either his own experiences that he's had as a soccer player, or from like him fanboying about other leagues and what they do and being like, I wish Japan would do that. And so he's cherry picked all of these different technologies and strategies and opportunities from other countries to incorporate in the Blue Lock program. And it's really fun. Like this episode and going through it was really fun, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not good at math, as y'all know. So we started out with 125 players at the second selection. We've gone down to 125. The thing about it is that this episode does not tell us how many got past stage 1. We don't know. Hypothetically, you could do, all 125 could advance, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think Ego knows that's not going to happen. So what if you don't get it? What if you get an odd number? What if you get a number that doesn't divide by 3? How do you do that? Ego, how can you account for these things? What happens if you get an even number and you can't divide it by 3, right? Because if I'm doing this correctly, I could do this longhand on here, but y'all don't want me to waste my time doing that. If I use my calculator, if you had 125 divided by 3, that's 41.6. That doesn't add up. So he is banking on there at least being some individuals that don't make it, right? So if we did, let's say 100 divided by 3, that's still not going to work because that's 33.3. What about, okay, let's say 105 make it. Let's just choose a random number. Let's say 20 people don't make it from that selection. And I'm being optimistic. I don't think it's going to be as high as 105. But let's just go under the assumption we can divide 105 by 3. So let's say 105 made it past stage 1. I'm doing my own little algebraic functions here. Let's do that. That means there would be 35 teams of 3. I still think that is a very generous number. I don't think that 105 out of the 125 are making it. I think there's going to be a lot more drop off. Because if you think about it, if you go back with that, that would mean like if you had 125, that means that 100, I mean, that's assuming, let's say you had the 11 divided by, if you had 11 times the 5 divided by, I don't know. I mean, that's assuming, I can't do the math exactly, but that's assuming a lot of the members on each of the teams were equally scoring, equally doing all of the work, which we know is not true. Honestly, on Team Z, if we're going to look at Team Z, for example, if we're looking at Team V, the 3 main ones, although I did see Bokuto made it past. Bokuto was there, and Nagi was not joining. Nagi and Reo were joining up with him, which is hilarious to me. But let's just say with Team Z, our scorers that made it, we know that Cone was capable of scoring goals, but that was only because Team W let him. So would he be able to do that otherwise? I think he'd be okay. I think that Gin would be okay because Gin is pretty agile. Obviously, we know that Bachira, we know Isagi, we know Kunigami, we know Chigiri. We know those 4 made it through of the team. Gin and Cone probably could. Could Raichi make it through? Maybe. I'd give Raichi the benefit of the doubt. That's 7. And then you have, like, do I think that Inagashi is going to make it? No. Do I think that Becky with the good hair, Imamura, and Hayakura could make it? Lemon? No. That's 4. So that would be your 11 people. So those 4 I'm not sure about. I don't know. I don't think Igarashi could make it. That's my thing. I don't think they can. And I don't think that Lemon or Imamura or Naruhaya, I don't know if they can make it either because they've not really done any goaling, right? They've not really done any scoring, and they've not had any weapons that they've put to the test. So I don't know. I mean, Raichi hasn't put any weapons to the test either, but he's clearly shown that he's capable of doing so. So, I need to grab my marker. Anyway, so I don't know. I feel like those 7 could make it through, but let's just say, but then if we do 7 times 5, that's 35, right? Is that the case, right? Yeah, if we do 7 times 5, it's still 35. Okay, so let's do that. Let's just say that 4 members from each group got knocked off. And so that means that we've got our 35 members made it through. 7 from each building makes it through stage 1. Let's just say that. Let's just go with those numbers, right? Could do. And maybe Cone and Gin and Raichi would show up and make a team. I think Chigiri and Kunigami are going to join up and either join with Reo or they're going to join with Bachira. I think one of the two. Not Bachira, Baro. I think one of the two. Could be. But this is where it's going to get interesting, right? This is where it's going to get really interesting. So we're going to get to stage 2 and talk about it here in a second. But we're just going to go with our equation is going to count for 35, which are 35 teams of 3. We're going to do that. Gonna do 35 teams of, or if 35 make it through, then that would just mean 7 teams. If it's 35 altogether that make it through, only 7 from each group, that would mean only 35, which would just mean either 35. If 105 make it through, math, I tell y'all. If, let's say, either 105, if we're being generous, make it through, nearly everyone, that would be 35 teams of 3. If only 35 make it through stage 1, which is not a lot, then that just means that you have 7 teams of 3. We might go with that. We might go with just the 7 teams of 3 for simplicity's sake instead of the generous amount. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it here in a second. So let's come back to stage 1 here and talk about it for a hot second here with Isagi and the blue lock man that has the blue lock symbol as its mouth, which is a choice. Now, we had the 3 of them in the OP. Now we have the case, which we'll get their names here in a hot second. But they're the ones that are with Rin, the 2 of them, the goth glam, and the boy that he's like, I'm just so innocent. I'm like, no, he's a freaking demon. Either he is or he's just really lucky. I don't know. He seems like he's a demon. He's just making you think that he's all innocent. Cone has jaded me forever. I'll never think that players are innocent anymore, right? Sure thing. But I will say, I really like this idea. It's kind of like, I do know in soccer, the one thing I knew about soccer going into this is that they have penalty kicks. I played soccer for like a year, but I was 7, so I don't remember a lot of it. But I remember you got penalty kicks sometimes. And so this kind of feels like this stage, what do we do when we get penalty kicks? Which is kind of fun because we didn't get that really in the games leading up to here, so it's nice to see them practice that in here. But they're essentially like, here's your penalty kicks, what do you do? And you have to score all these goals. I will say, how do I feel about Isagi's green glow? We were talking about it in the Discord on Patreon. A lot of people were calling it a fart, which is hilarious. Not untrue. I don't know how I feel. On the one hand, it feels so strange to me that Isagi's glow, his aura is like this lime slimer green because he has the blue eyes. And so far we've seen like Bachira's glow is yellow, Chigiri's is red, Kunigami's is orange. It matches their eyes. It aesthetically lines up with their coloring. I kept expecting that Isagi's would be blue, and it was for a while, but now it's this green color. So I don't know why. I'm assuming we'll find out later why it has to be green. My assumption was that Ego's aura is blue, and Isagi's isn't going to compete with that, but I don't know. Maybe Rin's is blue. I don't know. I don't dislike the green aura. It just bothers me aesthetically because I want it to be blue to match his eyes. But that's fine. Whatever. The green works. It's the color of the soccer field. Matches up with that. I'll take it. I'll take it. And plus, if you look at it this way, if Isagi had the bright blue glow like Blue Lock, it would seem like he has to make it through the next stage. He's the same color as the system itself. So maybe it's a way of the mangaka like not letting Isagi get totally off the hook and seem like he's safe. Maybe that's the reasoning behind it. But I really do love this first stage. I love the idea that Isagi has to, and I like Isagi's mentality about it, where he goes, I know how I can work with my teammates to create a goal. That part makes sense to me. But if I rely on my teammates all the time, then what happens, like in the game with Team V, what happens if I can't pass to them? There's not an opening. Am I going to be able to rely upon myself if I can't use my teammates? And that's kind of what this stage is about. It's about not only, it's separating the men from the mice, saying, okay, if you were on a team that had some really good scorers and you just lucked out, this is going to weed you out real quickly, which is why I don't feel like these 4 are going to make it, because they've not actively been in the goal-making process. Raichi I worry about a little bit. Kone I worry about a little bit, because Gin has been actively making goals. I think Gin will be able to do it. Kone, I feel confident. Raichi, I feel confident. These other 4, I don't feel so confident about. But I could be proven wrong. Who knows? But obviously we know Bachira, Isagi, Chigiri, and Kunigami make it through to the next stage. We know that. They at least make it to stage 3, as far as we know. Or they're at least to stage 2. We don't know if Kunigiri and Chigiri are going to make it past that. But I do love Isagi and his optimism. Like, I like that Isagi, he gets in this situation where you would think that you'd find yourself being like, oh crap, what do I do? And he had 75 minutes left before he scored his first goal. Like, he wasted 15 minutes before he figured out how to score his first goal. That's crazy. Isagi is definitely I don't want to say a late bloomer, but he's a character that has to warm up before he gets going. He starts out pretty cold, and then he has to like get riled up, and then he goes. It's like a domino effect after that. But I do appreciate that Isagi doesn't get like doom and gloom, like it's impossible, because then he wouldn't pass this stage. Instead, he starts thinking and rationalizing, and it's like this activity allows him to focus on his own skills and simulate putting it to the test rather than being worried about other people. Because Isagi definitely strikes me as a character that does worry, not necessarily about what other people think of him, but he worries about the people surrounding him, sometimes to the detriment of himself. And Ego's like, you're going to be an egoist. You're going to think about yourself. You're going to move forward in this. So that's kind of what this activity is also designed to do, which is fun. I like it. And then level 2 is just the idea that then you have like bumpers and markers that can try to, stop the soccer ball. And I like Isagi's like, okay, what can I do? I love Isagi is he's this great combination of someone that has to work really hard. He has like an Oikawa vibe to him and working really hard. But at the same time, he also is kind of a prodigy in that he can instantly think up and rationalize all these different scenarios and has this spatial awareness. So he's kind of this cool middle ground between prodigy and the everyman, which I like about Isagi an awful lot. It's really neat to see. And so we see everybody else, right? We see other people in action on the field. Kunigami and Shigiri are working at it. We see Nagi. We see this guy that's supposedly in high school with the fro and the goatee that already has facial hair. Sure. We see the long-haired guy running that's with the one team. And then, of course, we see one guy that has, like, borrow hair. And we see Becky with the good hair. Maybe Imamura's doing all right. Who knows? We see this other guy. We'll see. And so I like the idea that Henri is explaining the technology. And Henri's like, this microchip sensor in the ball makes the interactions with the hologram possible somehow. And this is holographic sports technology. And she's like, I'll cut to the chase, Ego-san. We're out of funds. And the best thing is Ego goes, shut up, Henri. I should be mad that he tells her to shut up because it's like, Ego, come on now. But it almost feels like a mimsy, and it feels like it's like, boss, we're out of funds, see? It feels like one of those cartoons where there's like the boss, it's like Pinky and the Brain, essentially. Like Henri is Pinky and Ego is the brain, and Henri's like, oh, well, Brain, we're out of funds for the holographic technology. Shut up, Pinky. I know what I'm doing. Like, that's the vibe that they give me. Henri and Ego give me Pinky and the Brain vibes, but in a romantic context. I want to ship them so badly. And part of me wants to tell Ego to stop telling her to shut up. But at the same time, it almost seems like it's endearing. Like Ego's just like, shut up, Henri. I know I got money. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about my L-style funds. They come from something. Don't worry about it. So we see Bachira and Nagi, and we see Rin, and we see the long-haired guy, and we see Imamura on there in stage 2. So maybe Imamura makes it through. Maybe Kon or Geen don't. I don't know. But that's interesting to me that we see them. And so the way to clear the stage is going to challenge a player depending on how they use their skills, right? And I like Ego's like, we're going to weed people out for those who survived because others did the scoring, and we see Igarashi and we see Imamura and Naruhaya, then this stage is going to be a challenge. We specifically see those 3, which make me think that they're probably not going to make it out, but I could be wrong. But for those who can turn 0 into 1 with their weapons, then this is going to test how you use your weapon and you feel your progress. I like Ego. He's just like Emperor Palpatine there, like, yes, feel the stage 1. Develop your weapons. Like, just, oh my God. Ego's ridiculous. But yeah, so Isagi makes pretty good time. Like, by the time he has, in 15 minutes, he scored half the goals, which is pretty damn good. And then you get to the max level, and he's like, this is just the beginning. And once you have 40 goals left, then it's the final stage and everything moves around, right? And he goes like, this is imitating a real game. Assessing the situation and responding, quality shooting with accuracy. You've got to have all of them to make it to the next stage. And then, of course, I like that Isagi realizes that all the conditioning they were doing for the 10 days leading up to this was to prepare for this very stage, so they have the stamina to work through in 90 minutes to keep scoring the goals. I talked about this in the reaction, but I like how Isagi, he never really gets mad at Ego at all. A lot of people like Kone and Shigiri, they comment about how Ego is kind of insane. And they're like, this is really dumb. This is Willy Wonka land. What is happening? But Isagi's like, damn, Charlie Bucket. Charlie Bucket was all, he just went with the flow and did the Willy Wonka land. And what happens at the end? Spoiler alert for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but he manages to win the competition. And Isagi is kind of like Charlie Bucket, and Ego's like Willy Wonka. And a lot of the players are like, you're an idiot. This is insane. What are you doing? But Isagi never questions it. He tries to make the best out of the situation and move forward and make it work. And he kind of likes the blue lock system and how it's designed. And that's kind of refreshing that your shonen sports protagonist is like, no, we got this. Let's do it. I kind of like that. I like that about Isagi's character, that he's so optimistic, but yet he's kind of a monster. It's like, it's freaking cool. I love it. It reminds me of Shoyo, reminds me of Sawamura, just being eager to go with the flow. And Isagi's like, I understand how this works and how I want a strength that I can use to fight alone. He's like, I have to be able to defend myself and fight alone in case if my teammates are covered and I can't get the ball to them. So it's cool. And I like the idea that we slowly see Isagi's eye being like, just go into like crazy blue lock mode and showing him what I need to do to get the goal. And I love that he says, this is so much fun. Like Isagi getting the fun out of it, realizing it for what it is, that soccer's fun and he's enjoying it. He's enjoying making himself stronger, figuring out how to use his skills. Like that was so enjoyable to watch in this episode. I love it because it's not like when we started Blue Lock, yeah, the stakes are insanely high. If you don't make it to the next level, you can't ever play professional soccer, ever. Like that was an insanely high stake raised from the get-go. However, what I love about it is that even though the stakes are high and winning is insanely important, it doesn't sacrifice that soccer is fun, and Isagi's realizing that. And that's really cool. I love that. It's so much fun to see. And it's kind of true. I like this series a lot too because I can compare it to coaching speech. Because in competitive speech competitions, yeah, you can have an amazing speech, but if you don't enjoy giving it, it's not going to show. You're not going to be passionate enough to win. You have to have passion. You have to enjoy doing the activity to be good in it, to be truly good in it, right? And Ego's like, we only see what we want to see. Becoming aware of your limitations changes how you see and think about everything. So yeah, Ego's like, look, you're not going to get better unless you know what you're bad at and what you need to improve. Being self-aware is very important, which is really fun to see in this. And I just love seeing Isagi get excited. And it's like, okay, first stage, you cleared it. Nice. I don't think we get to see how much time was left over, but also I like Isagi like walking down there and he's like, his chest is puffed out. His shoulders are back. He looks stronger, more confident than he did when he came into the stage. Awesome. Love it. So then we get to the end of this hallway and we get to the second stage. And he's like, okay, we're here. We see Ryo and Nagi form a team of 3. Okay. I wanted to see what we saw when we first came into the room. He's like, I know I can get even stronger. Okay, so we do see a guy there that's sitting down. I thought that was Imamura, but I guess it's not. There's a bunch of guys there. There's a long-haired guy. There's the guy that looks like Bokuto from Team V. There's the guy with the fro. And Isagi's like, huh. And then that's when he sees Ryo and Nagi standing there like they're waiting on Zentetsu. What if Zentetsu didn't make it? He might not have. I think it'd be interesting if Zentetsu did not make it, and so these two were just waiting on people to show up. Okay. And so then, yeah, form a team of 3 and proceed, and it's like they're sitting there waiting. He's like, and that's when Bachira, I'm glad that Bachira instantly shows up. He's like, oh, hey, reunited once again. Bachira is not going to let Isagi get out without being part of the harem. Bachira is the president of the harem. He ain't going to let Isagi go on his own. So one free spot. And he's like, who do you think we should pick? And I love that instantly Isagi has faith that Chigiri and Kunigami are going to be there and be on the team. And Bachira's like, but we can only pick one. We can only pick one. So, I thought for a hot second that Isagi was going to go with Reo and Nagi and leave Bachira with Chigiri and Kunigami. I thought for a hot second it was going to happen that way, but I was like, ooh, ugh. This part is pretty scary though, right? This part's scary because I feel like the second stage seems like it's so simple. Oh, just pick a team of 3. You're fine. But there's a lot more at stake to it than that, because if you lose twice, one person on your team is not going to advance. So you don't want to be the weak one on your team, right? Here's the thing. You want to make sure on your team that your team has a weak person, because they're going to have to be, if your team loses twice, they're the odd guy out that's going to get disqualified. So ideally, you kind of pick strategically here, because you're like, if you are on a team with 2 people that are weaker than you, then you're going to lose to a team, but they're going to pick you out of those 2 to advance, right? So you kind of want to be the egoist and say, I want to be the strongest on my team to stand out, so that if we lose to these 3, they're going to pick me to advance to the next level. And you don't want to be the weakest one on your team, because that means you potentially will be disqualified, right? Until they've sifted out and narrowed it down, right? So let's say that we have 7 teams of 3. Let's say that we have 7 teams of 3. So we have these 2 versus these 2, these versus these, and then here's 6, and we have this 7th team over here. Okay, so let's say somebody loses and they get a team here, and then let's say that they face this team and they advance, and then they have their team of 5. So team of 5, we've got 1. Now let's say that these people face each other and they lose a member, and we get a team, and let's say they face this team over here, lose a member. All right, we have our second team. Okay. And that's how we did that there. And then this team, I guess, the odd man out, it can't be, the thing about it is we can't have where there's an odd number of teams, because then what do we do? Because we've got this 3rd team member down here. So what do we do then? Then we're left with those. So then do these 2 face off? I'll get to that point with the second stage, right? We'll get to the point with the second stage here and see what we do there. So they decide they're going to face each other, and they're like, who do we pick? And then Nagi just walks up. Out of nowhere, and he's like, hey, Isagi, you join me and Reo and join our team. Now, at first, I get why Reo was like, wait, what? Why do you want Isagi? But he was just like, it's fine. You're still with me, Nagi. It's okay. It's cool. I feel like Nagi was not going to wait on Zantetsu. He may not even thought that Zantetsu was going to make it, but he was like, you're strong. We'll probably win. So you kind of have to look at making the teams from 2 different angles. You either want to have a team of 3 insanely strong people, regardless of where you're from, that could win and gain other teammates quickly, or you need to make sure that you're the strongest on your team, so that if you lose, you're going to be the one they pick, right? You don't want a mediocre team. You either want to be the good guy on a team that sucks, or a really strong team. And Reo's like, well, I guess we don't have to wait on Zantetsu. And Nagi's like, look, he was the most impressive guy we faced out of all the other teams, so I want him. And we've talked about this in the past. Nagi would be amazing working with Isagi, because Isagi could use Nagi really well, and Bachira probably knows it too, and he's like, okay, sure, join our team, it's fine. He's like, he'd be the one we'd want to pick. I want to play soccer with him. And Reo's like, you know that Reo's just sitting there like, I know you want to play soccer with him, but by play soccer with him, do you mean just play soccer with him? And we're like, yes, Reo, don't worry. Nagi is practically asexual. You're fine. You're okay. And Bachira's like, well, are you going to accept the offer? The crazy thing is, I think Bachira would have been fine with it. I think Bachira would have been like, you going to take it? Okay. I feel like Bachira is so supportive of Isagi, which is why them as a ship is so fun. that I think he would have been, he's kind of the polar opposite of Rayo if we're talking about shipping. Rayo is just like, no, don't leave me, Nagi. And Nagi's like, I gotta do this for the game, right? You'll be fine. But it's still the idea that Nagi has so much faith in Rayo. He's like, well, we'll make it on the other side. You'll join a team and we'll just make it. It's fine. We're good. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I like how Rayo freaks out about it, whereas Bachira is the polar opposite of Rayo. If you're looking at him and Isagi as a ship, Bachira's like, you gonna go with them? Cool. I'll get with, Chigiri and Kunigami later. I think he wouldn't care either way. I think Bachira's so chill, and that's why I love him as a character. They just like, you just go if you got to. And Isagi's like, no, I'm not doing that. And he's like, I'm sorry, Nagi, but I can't join you alone. And that's when Nagi's like, fine, then I'm going to join your team. And poor Rayo's like, what? Wait, what? Why am I chopped liver? That solves the problem. Rayo's like, why? What are you talking about? He's like, you're teaming up with me. That's a must. Here's the thing. I'm curious if Rayo is going to make it to the next stage. I don't know. I'm curious. Nagi has faith in him. Nagi's like, I've got faith you're going to make it to the other stage. We'll meet each other on the other side. We'll be fine. I don't know if they're going to, right? I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to make it to the next stage. That's going to be the curious thing, right? That's going to be the curious thing indeed. So what if Rayo doesn't make it past the stage? What will that do to Nagi? I could see it going either way. I could see Rayo either making through the second stage, the second selection, or if he doesn't, then he'll just become Nagi's sugar daddy. He'll just take all his funds and fund Nagi becoming the world's best soccer player from afar, right? He'll just get him a private jet. He'll fund all the campaigning, everything, all of his travel expenses. One thing, Rayo will end up with Nagi regardless by the end of this, but I really want Rayo to make it. He's like, what about me? And Nagi's like, you taught me soccer, Rayo. And he's like, you and I will become the best in the world. What I love about this is that Nagi still said, it's like Nagi's not separating himself from Rayo. He's not leaving Rayo behind. He's like, you and I are going to become the best. You guys are going to become the best in the world. You and I are. That is a fact. But we did lose. And then Rayo's like, what? And he's like, we weren't the strongest. And he's like, to understand the feeling of frustration I experienced for the first time. And I love that Rayo, like Nagi's monster is terrifying. It looks absolutely insane, right? He's like, because of this feeling of frustration I experienced, he's like, I want to play soccer with him to like understand what to do now. And I love that Bachira and Isagi are in the back like, what are we supposed to be listening to this? Is this like, are we having this breakup right here, right now? But it's not really a breakup. It's literally just Nagi being like, look, we've come this far together. And after this, we're going to keep going far together. But you and I have to, we have to part ways for a minute so that I can figure something out and then we'll get back together. He's like, I want to give it my all. And Rayo's like, well, yeah, that's a really good reason, but... And he looks like he's going to say something, but he clenches his teeth and looks away and he's like, are you serious? Do what you want. And Bachira and Isagi are like, well, what do we do here? And I like that this kind of absolves Isagi and Bachira from the problem of having to choose between Chigiri and Kunigami. Although we know that if Chigiri arrived first, he would have joined their team. Would have been that. But I really wanted to see them work with Nagi anyway, so I'm kind of happy. I'm like, I wanted to see them work with Nagi anyway, so cool. But this solves the problem of having to pick between the two of them. And also, I like the idea that Isagi is like, I know that I would feel most comfortable with Chigiri or Kunigami. However, if I'm going to become Japan's next top striker, I've got to get used to playing with people that are outside of my comfort zone. Bachira, you're like a B neutral anywhere. But I need to know what it's like to work with Nagi, and I want to do that. And plus, Nagi's freaking strong. I'd have picked Nagi, honestly. I love, no offense to Chigiri and Kunigami. Love them dearly, but Nagi is a beast. I would have picked Nagi in a heartbeat. And Bachira's excellent support, so it makes sense, right? He's like, okay. And then they end up joining together. Here we go. And then poor Rayo. And Nagi's like, see you later, Rayo. I'll wait for you on the other side. Rayo's like, poor Rayo. Where he's like, I feel so bad for Rayo, but Nagi has so much faith in him. And I don't feel like Rayo has that faith in himself, which makes me worried about Rayo. I feel like either Rayo is going to fall apart at this point because Nagi's not there, or he is going to kick it into overdrive, being like, we have to get back to Nagi. Like, you know, but that could make him fall apart too. So I am worried about Rayo. I'm worried about him quite a bit, right? I'm concerned about Rayo. I hope he heard what Nagi said. And Bachira's like, are you sure you should? He's like, at first he says, I'm looking forward to it, Nagichi. He very much, Bachira has a Kisei vibe from Kuroko's Basketball where he gives them all little nicknames where he's like, Nagichi. That feels very Kisei. I like that. And then he says, he looked a little sad, your friend Rayo back there. Like, are you really that cold? And Nagi's like, I'd be lying if I said I don't miss him. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's not that, it's fine. It's just keep that ship afloat. Don't sink it yet, show. He's like, but I was more excited to join you too. It's like, yeah, he's like, hey, Rayo and I are going to be together by the end of this, right? But when do I get a chance to join up with you two? He's like, shouldn't I be following that aspect of my ego? Nagi's like, look, Rayo, we're a couple, but we can't let our relationship hold us back. Which I'm like, okay, yes, sure, absolutely. That's the place that Blue Lock is. And Isagi's like, okay, I don't understand this, but sure. So if they're true egoists, I'll see them again after the stage. That's the thing. So if they are true egoists, then they'll see him after the stage is over. So yeah. So hypothetically, if I'm thinking about this right, if these two faced off, I want to wait till the stage is explained. I'm going to hold off just a minute. I don't want to get this wrong. And so he's like, for now, let's work together, Nagi. And I like that Nagi's like, sure. Yeah, let's do it. I love it. I love the idea. This team is amazing. I love Nagi, Bachira, and Isagi. I'm all for this team. They seem crazy cool. And then they get to the third stage, and look who's waiting on them. But these three. Rin's the only one standing up. The other two are sitting down, which is interesting. I feel as if there was no option. And I could be wrong. I feel like whoever they got in there with, they were going to have to face. It wasn't like a waiting game. I feel like part of passing into the third stage is choosing this team, right? I mean, for Isagi, it's kind of like a no-brainer to challenge them because the positive is if you win, you can get Rin, the number one player, on your side, right? And if you lose, well, there's a 1 in 3 chance they're going to pick you to be on their team and advance forward, which would be a win. But if they don't pick you, then you face the strongest team in the competition. So that's already out of the way. Now you've got to just face another team and hope that you win and get picked from that team. Or you pick somebody else up. So I feel like for Isagi, it was a win-win situation facing them anyway. But this definitely showed like Isagi's nerve in his charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent in choosing to face Rin and them. Also, these guys are buff as hell. Like, Rin is swole, right? And I automatically love this one guy. It's great. They recognize him. So Ego shows up. He's like, okay, this is the third stage of the second selection. We're already here. Third stage already. So we're definitely making it past. I feel like maybe we're going to make it to the end of the second selection by the end of this season. Maybe. I feel like we are. But he's like, team battles of 3-on-3. Bachira's like, ready. And he's like, we're facing this guy right off the bat. But then we find out you don't necessarily have to. I like Rin's little lower eyelashes too. So, okay, Kunigami shows up. And we have more people have joined. We have a lot of Team V members, right? A lot of them. And then Chigiri's sitting there waiting on him. He's like, oh, Kunigami, there you are. I see why you all ship them together. Because they're already on a team. Like, I see why you guys do that. That's fun. And so they already know. And Kunigami's like, are you kidding? They left me? That pisses me off. And Shigiri's like, yes, but obviously we're going to work together. Now, who else would they choose? I would kind of think you'd want to choose Baro as their team member, but I feel like either Kunigami and Chigiri are going to choose Baro as their third team member, which would be really fun. Or maybe Rayo will try to like make them choose and be like, we have to go back and get Nagi. Or maybe Rayo will end up being the good one on a bad team and he'll just keep like advancing through. Rayo is such a question mark at this point. I don't know where his character is going to go. Okay, so the first team to score 5 goals wins. So part of this second stage is you have to score 5 goals. We love the number 5, so it's our tiebreaker. You know, we have 5 goals. The first team to score it wins. There's no time clock. That's fun. And the winning team, it's Red Rover. They get to steal a player from the losing team to create a 4-man team. All right. And so it's like, okay, they steal a player. Interesting. And Bachira's like, this sounds like a game I knew. And then Nagi knows it's Red Rover. I like Nagi and Bachira's relationship because Nagi is so chill and Bachira is so hyper sometimes that I feel like they balance each other out pretty well. So you progress through the stage, acquiring more players. So stage 4 is a 4-man team versus a 4-man team. Okay. So then stage 4 is 4-on-4 matches. So if these teams go here, then we have, let's say that the 4-on-4, I was getting ahead of myself with this chart. And then I'm going to redo this. I'm going to redo this just a little bit, okay? Because my math was getting ahead of myself. I was trying to go ahead and use the formula that Ego had put out there rather than what I should have done. So let's say we have 7 teams of 3 again. We had 35 make it through total. And that's all we ended up with. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Let's say that these 2 teams face off. And so we're left with these 2 and then a team of 4. And these 2 teams face off and we're left with these 2 and a team of 4. And then these guys face off and we're left with a team of 3 and a team of 5. Okay. And then getting these all lined up. And then we have our team of 3. But we'll just go with this round first. Okay, so as you progress, you acquire more players, 4-man team versus a 4-man team. And then if you're able to make a team of 5 and get to the 5th stage, then you pass the second selection. So this team makes it to the second selection, right? Okay, and so then that's the ideal goal. You want to win 2 games and be done. That's the dream. So what happens to the losing teams? They go back down with their remaining members and go back to stage 3. So these 3 will go back that are left back down to face, let's say, this group. And so then they'll be left those 3 versus those 3. The 3 that win will get the remaining team. Look at this math. We'll get that team member and then you'll be left with those 2 again. And so then they'll do the same thing. They'll leave behind a team of 3, and then we'll have a team of 5 advance. Okay. And that leaves these 4 teams of 2. 1 will have a team of 3. 1 will have a team of 3. So you'll get your 2 teams of 3. Out. And then you'll have a team of 4 face a team of 4. And you basically just keep going down till there's no players left. You go. So ideally, there's only going to be, if you started with 35, you're only going to end up with 15 by the end of, right? By the end of, if you start out with 35 players, you're going to only end up with 15 or 3 teams of 5 by the end of the stage, right? By the end of the 3rd selection, is that correct? You're going to get down to 15 members. Is that correct? if I'm doing my math right. Again, the thing about it is that complicates all of this is that we don't know how many made it out of stage 1. If I knew how many made it out of stage 1, I would be able to tell you and do the math. And maybe next episode we'll find that out, but we don't know. And so if you lose the game of 2-on-2, then, and you don't get picked by the winning team, then you're disqualified. So essentially, you can't lose 2 games. If you lose 2 games, if you lose 3 games, you're screwed. But ideally, you don't want to lose 2 games. So, yeah. That's the full picture of the second selection where you steal your rivals, the rivalry battle. You're free to choose which team you battle, and both teams must agree to play a match. So technically, Rin's team could choose not to face them. Yeah. So technically, Rin's team could say no. They could be like, nope, we don't want to fight you. We're going to fight somebody else, right? But ideally, you want to battle your rival teams because best case scenario, you win, you get your rival, they're the stronger. The stronger the team, the more chances are you get through quickly, right? So this ain't RuPaul's friend race. This is RuPaul's Drag Race. You want to get, which is kind of going back to RuPaul's Drag Race. In some competitions, you have groups of queens that don't necessarily get along, but they know their strengths. But it can go either way. You have to be cohesive. So you kind of have to tread a very delicate line. That's why this stage 2 is so important, because if you just pick people based on their strengths, but you can't gel, that might be a problem. Or maybe not, since it's scoring goals. Who knows? But I'm not crazy worried about Chigiri, and I'm not crazy worried about Chigiri and Kunigami or this team, because I feel like even if they lose, even if Isagi's team loses, let's say Isagi's team loses, and Rin's team picks Nagi to go with them to advance, Isagi and Bachira could still face off against other teams, pick up somebody and work their way back up, I feel, right? Same thing with Kunigami and Chigiri's team. With Rayo, though, I still don't know. And I should have more faith in Rayo, but I feel like Nagi saying, I'll meet you on the other side is a big red flag that Rayo is not going to be on the other side, and that Zantetsu didn't make it. So, I don't know. I am so excited and curious to see what the teams are like, and I wish I had a number so I could do the math accurately. Don't tell me that number. I'm sure I'll figure it out as these episodes go on, but it's like, okay, what do we do? And so they debate on, whose team should we face? And so now we have a new index. So what we don't know is, damn it, we don't know what the bottom ranks is. We know there's at least 16 because Bachira, we know there's at least 16 people playing because Bachira, he has number 16, but we don't know how many there are total. I wish I knew what it is, right? He's like, you're all here because you're players that can turn 0 into 1 on the field. Hurl your 1 at another's, mix them together, and enhance each other to survive. I like this one guy. He's like so cute with his giant green eyes. And he's like, only strikers who dominate the chemical reaction between ego and ego will ticket to the next stage. I love Ego's like, you guys have got to find a way to get along and make it work. Like, what a crazy person. So, okay. We meet the battle of stealing friends or rivals. We have to form a team of 5. We got to form a boy band to get through. Who's going to be on our boy band? But we can take our time picking the opponent. What do you want to do, Isagi? Should we wait for someone or go along with it? Okay. So then the one guy is freaking out about losing. He's like, I don't want to do this. His confidence is rock bottom. We don't get their names. Oh, that's so frustrating. Yeah, we just see the numbers that they have. Okay, or do we get their ranks? Okay. I want to see if we get their ranks or not. He's like, oh man, number 3. Okay, so Tokimitsu Aoshi, or Aoshi. Aoshi, is it Aoshi? Ao means blue. So Aoshi. Maybe it's Aoshi. Okay, I'm going to call him Aoshi because Tokimitsu is a long word. So we have Aoshi. Aoshi's a little precious lamb. I think he's a demon on the court. Looks can be deceiving in Blue Lock. Nagi looked like he was super chill, but then he was a monster. I feel like Aoshi is like so enigmatic about soccer, he's probably a crazy monster. Or he freaks out and is just super talented. So we have Aoshi as number 3. He doesn't want to be all alone. Okay. He's got some codependency issues. Interesting. And Isagi's like, I don't want him. Then we have the other guy here, who is Jujubee. We have Jubei. I'm going to call him Jujubee. We have Jujubee, who acts like Jujubee too from RuPaul's Drag Race. Who's just like, whatever. You're just unt. I like Jujubee. Jujubee is interesting. They're all about glam. And they're like, I don't think they make me... Jujubee is like or Jubei, however you say his name. They are a combination of Rei from Free, Kurama from Yu Yu Hakusho, and there's another character they're a mix of from, but who is it? It's somebody that's like, is it not Mukai from Ace of the Diamond? Like, it's like if Rei from Free and Kurama from Yu Yu Hakusho and the one captain of the archery team in Sarune season 2, he has a mask on. He's like a combination of those 3 characters. That's what he is. But he's all about glam. I feel like he's very egoistical. And then there's Reen. And Reen's like, I'm just here to use you all so I can get to my brother. And I like that Bachira's like, what's glam? And Nagi's like, I think he means glamorous. I like that Nagi too is just like totally chill with Bachira. He's like, no, this is what it means, right? And he's like, oh, I love that. My heart, bless them. So yeah, and then he's like, don't get me wrong. He's like, I'm just here to get to the last stage as quickly as I can. You're all just stepping stones to my brother. When he looks back at them and has that like dead shark eye look to him, he looks a lot like Sai. Sai and him both have this like disinterested look, but they're so pretty. He's just using them all to get to his brother. So it's interesting. Reen has a bone to pick with his big bro, and he's trying to catch up with him and prove to him like he's in his brother's shadow. I think that Reen probably doesn't like how his brother treats Japan soccer and wants to prove to him that Japan soccer is great. So I'm so excited to see more with Reen. He's such a... We already have one Reen who's a diva shark and free. This Reen looks like the emo version of that. It's totally exciting. Totally exciting. I'm sure he'll be a diva just like the Reen that we know from that series. He's like, I've got to surpass my big brother. Crushing Sai is everything to me in soccer. Interesting. And then Isagi is just like, I don't care about this family business, but I want him because he's super strong. He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm sorry, guys. I want to face them. And what I like about it is that Bachira's like, no, I would have done the same. And Nagi's like, I was going to do the same too. So I like they're all on the same page, right? They're going to face this team. The question is, are they going to be able to beat them or not? If they beat them somehow, then they get Reen on their team, which I don't know how that's going to go. That seems like it's going to be a problem because Reen's just like, doesn't want to get along with anybody. He's just using people. But that could be interesting. Worm your way into Reen's heart, Isagi. Get him to join the harem as well. We'll see. But if they lose, then I don't know if this team would pick Nagi or if they'd pick Isagi or if they'd pick Bachira. Interesting. So then we have the brothers, right? The one brother finally speaks, where he's like, goodbye, bro. And it's Wanima and Wakima. And Wanima is like, so Wanima, the one with the alligator eyebrows, or the one with the alligators inside is the one that didn't make it. And he's like, when you become the best striker in the world, I'll become a TV personality as your impersonator. I could just imagine Wakima, I could imagine him like playing soccer and the twin brothers like doing the commentary and talking for him. Could imagine. That's hilarious. And he's like, see you, bro. Make sure you survive. And he's like, Keisuke, leave it to me. I'll crush those who have separated us. And they're like, oh my God, he can talk. And then he's like, who's there? I love it. I love Bachira and Isagi eavesdropping like together. That's so cute. It's adorable. Love it. Love it. So I'm sorry I wasted your time with my probably flawed math. But I hope that at least in the next couple episodes, or at least when this first match is over, I would love to know how many made it past stage 1, because that would help us be able to determine how many are possibly going to make it to the end of the second selection. That's going to be the question. It has to be at least 3 teams of 5, though. At least 15 out of however makes it to the next one, right? Right? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm very curious. And I'm very curious to know all of your thoughts down below. So I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and discussion and my terrible math skills. I'm super excited to start the second half of this season and see what this team of 3 does. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back with more Blue Lock next week. Bye!